Do you remember when my side yard looked like this? Well, it doesn't look like that anymore. Today, I'm going to tell you how I transformed it. What is up, my friends? Welcome back to another episode of Budget Lawns. I appreciate you being here. If you've been following along this season, you know that I'm in my new house and we have had a massive project going on in the backyard. You also know that I think lawns with nothing but green grass are boring, and mine is going to have a lot of landscaping to reduce the amount of grass I have, with some low maintenance plants and perennials and ground covers to give me more time and freedom to do things with my family and friends, and also spend a lot less money. Well, to get there, we've had this ongoing project going on, and it has been one of the most difficult things I have ever done in the lawn, but I can tell you it is going to be super rewarding in the end. So today I'm going to take you through all the steps I took to make my lawn look the way it does. There's no point in waiting until the end of the video to show you the final product, so let's start there and kind of rewind back through each step of the process. Now, this yard that you see now is a far cry from where we started on this new construction Bermuda lawn earlier this spring. I would say for our first season, we have made much bigger strides than I anticipated, so I'm pretty satisfied with where we're at. And you'll remember it all started right behind this retaining wall, where it was just a wavy, bumpy mess, and we wanted to smooth that out a little bit. So we started digging sod off of this hillside and transplanting it with a little topsoil back behind the retaining wall. And people always ask me, topsoil or sand for leveling? If you're leveling, sand. If you're transplanting some sod, soil. Because I need a little soil for that sod's roots to have something to grab onto. But you'll see when I use the soil, it introduced a lot of weeds into the lawn. Sand, you're really not going to get that. Topsoil, no matter how well it's screened, you're going to get some weed seeds in it, but that's okay. We can take care of that, no problem. All right, so we started leveling that out or smoothing that out behind the retaining wall. A huge improvement there. And then the project just kept growing legs. Then we started ripping out the rest of the sod all along this slope here up to the electrical boxes and fiber pedestals. Removed all that sod there, came back down the hill, removed all the sod here along the bricks and by the air conditioner. Now, as we removed that sod, we also had our AC condensation drain pipe there and a couple other pipes from our hot water heater, some emergency release valves that ran down over here. So we had to extend those out to help a little bit of the drainage there, keeping all that water off of the bricks from the AC condensation pipe. And we ran those out with some extended pipes that will ultimately lead out into our little dry creek bed slash pathway that runs down to the gate. So we tore out all that sod, extended those pipes out, came back around the back of the house, tore out some more sod here next to the patio and along the back side of the bricks to give us 2 more flower beds in our patio area. And once we ripped out all that sod, we were left with a lot of rocks and a lot of nasty other soil and debris. So we cleaned all that up to kind of give us a blank slate to come in with some fresh topsoil to spread that out before we put out our mulch. So after we got the ripped out sod areas cleaned up, we put down some fresh topsoil, graded things the way we wanted it to be to prepare for our next step of a layer of mulch. And that's what we see here. It is all of our fresh mulch down, which is really just kind of a placeholder for now. We've got fresh chocolate mulch there, fresh chocolate mulch there, and then everywhere else on the side of the house because we're not going to plant anything until spring next year. The plants that I want to plant are best planted in the spring. We're going to do a lot of ground cover, looking at some ajuga, also like the looks of blue rug juniper, some creeping thyme, and some creeping phlox somewhere incorporated along this slope. So eventually the goal is that over a couple years time, all of this mulch that you see will be completely covered with a ground cover, and I won't have to mulch again. Just a grass substitute. These ground covers that I'm picking are super low maintenance perennials that don't take much in the way of care, and they will just overtake all these difficult areas that would be hard to mow and maintain if I were taking care of manicured turf. So we'll plant those next spring, and in the meantime, what it's allowing us to do with this dark mulch is to see where we might have some weeds or Bermuda crack through, which we already are. We've got some Bermuda trying to sneak back in through here, because Bermuda, with its underground rhizomes and its stolons and just the ferocious nature of its growing patterns, is so hard to completely eradicate no matter how much you tear the sod out. So we're able to see all that stuff coming through over the course of the next 6 months, 7 months till we plant in the spring, and I will just be zapping that stuff with a weed and grass killer until we're ready to plant, and hopefully by the springtime we don't see much in the way of grass or other weeds coming through our mulch. What was really nice about this project is we found ways to reuse topsoil and sod that we dug out. So had a major rut here, pulled it up, had another bowl around this catch basin, used some sod and topsoil to bring the level of that up as well. So we found ways to fix other spots in the yard during the process. Okay, so we're just going to keep our eyes on this mulch, see if we see any more Bermuda or weeds coming up, and zap them as we see them. And I've also put down a layer of Preen weed preventer for flower beds. This should help control some of that over the next 6 months, and then by the time we're ready to plant, the effects of that will be gone, and we'll be ready to have a successful planting season sometime in March or April. Okay, so this next spot is our main feature of this big project, is this dry creek bed or pathway, whatever you want to call it. I really wanted to find a way to move water off of this hillside or slope and away from the house and down this slope here towards the gate a little bit more efficiently. And we just wanted a nice landscape feature in our yard and thought this would be a really nice addition to this side of the house. So everywhere else where you see the mulch, no landscape fabric, no weed barrier, but here we did use a weed barrier underneath the rocks, because rocks are a lot easier for weeds to find their way up through. So we used a few kind of rocks here. These white and brown mixed ones here are an egg rock. These are a river rock or river pebble. And what I really like and find very interesting or unique about this feature, all the red ones you see, those are native to this soil. Those are all rocks that I pulled out of this lawn as I was ripping up the sod. Just took them, put them in buckets, washed them, recycled them, and think it adds a little bit of character to this whole thing to say, hey, these are rocks that came out of this lawn. Some flagstone stepping stones, and I really think this is just a nice addition that we will be able to enjoy not only the look but the functionality of it, of helping move water down the hill and away from the house much more efficiently. And then over here towards the side where we had our hot water emergency pipes, there's our AC drain pipe, empty them out into the stones there. That way we're not getting any water back in the corner up next to the bricks. Those both turned out nicely as an alternative to where the pipes were barely stubbed out from the house. So Nice rock feature, lots of mulch, ready for planting in the spring. Couple flower beds there. Backyard really not looking too bad for our first season, and really not putting much in the way of effort into that. Only 2 rounds of fertilization, twice a week mowing, no weed control, mainly just taking rain when we get it, because I've been tied up doing this. All this has been my focus, and I will say, yes, it was extremely difficult, but again, so satisfying to know that I did this myself and will get to enjoy it for many years to come. I want to point out the natural edge between the sod and the mulch. I really didn't do anything special here to achieve this. I just dug out the sod with a standard dig shovel and left a little space between the grass and the mulch to where I can take my string trimmer and edge it. And over time, that will create a much more defined edge, dig out a bit of a deeper trench, and really give me nice separation between the flower beds and the grass. All right, there you go. There are the steps you can take to transform part of your lawn into some areas for landscaping. Now, I know this isn't like, do this, do that, use this, use that. I really had not much clue about what I was doing. I just started doing it. So if you take anything from this video, just take the motivation to know that if you want something like this, you can do it too. You just got to get out there, start digging, start working, put in the sweat equity, and you can transform parts of your lawn to take it from boring to awesome with just a little bit of work. That's going to do it for this one. I hope I'll see you next time.